This video, we're going to talk about retaliation in the workplace. The next few videos that I do, I'm going to be talking about things that go on in a workplace because it does cause mental distress. I'm living proof. So I'm going over things that I've experienced, what I learned along the way doing my EEO process. And I want to make sure I point out some things that are important when it comes to our presumption of what retaliation, bullying, harassment mean versus what the government says it means. And that's what's important when you start filing claims, because you want to make sure you understand exactly what is covered under retaliation or discrimination so that you can have your ducks in line when you start filing claims. You want to look like you know what you're doing, especially if you're doing it by yourself. So this experience is totally mine. Everything I'm about to tell you is totally mine opinion, and you know that there's 11 sides to every story. This is my side of the story and what I went through, how I perceived everything to have gone in my experience at the post office. Yes, I work for the post office. And we know that retaliation is really bad at the post office. So I'm going to discuss some of those things in as safely as I possibly can and share some stuff with you to hopefully help someone out there. Again, I don't aim to make this a quick video, but a informative video. Before I get started on retaliation, though, I'm going to take you back to something I did yesterday. You want to always make sure when you start seeking help that you're on the USA government official page, usa.gov, or the Department of Labor.gov, and you don't want to pay for anything unless you're paying for an attorney, because there are websites out there that claim that they'll help you or get you information, and they're going to charge you when you can do it yourself. So on this page, usa.gov, I pointed out a lot of things, and I'm not going to re-point them out. So I'm just going to point out a few important things to you guys today. When you start looking into filing EEOs, you want to come here and you want to verify if your employer is required to follow the EEOC's rules, because not all employers are required to follow these rules. And I'm throwing this out there just in case someone's here that don't work for the post office. And then using their portal to file your claims or to check up on your claims. And this is what the portal looks like. Oh God, don't freeze. Okay. You want to come here and register. If you work at the post office, you can go through Light Blue and it'll take you through the process and you can submit your claims. And I must stress, when you do that, download a copy to PDF, take a picture, print it out, make copies of your copies, make backup of your backups. I'm telling you, of your evidence, of your statements, everything. Make sure you're keeping copies. And here you can come and you can open an inquiry. You can check on your cases and stuff. You can also do appeals here. This guidance is very useful. It'll go into detail, letting you know how everything is supposed to be presented, like the font size, the page limit, so on and so forth. Find the EEOC office, that might help you, but it didn't help me none. And then I want to point out that they have these hyperlinks, like ensure that you meet timeline limits. Oh, I stressed in the other video, timeline is very important. A lot of stuff is time sensitive and days are different. So you want to make sure you're paying attention to whether you have 180 calendar days or 30 days or 45 days. You want to make sure you're doing stuff in a timely manner. And then I want to also point out how under each, like for harassment and sexual harassment, if you keep strolling, how to report, and it says follow these steps. Those are very useful. And I wish I would have known about these links before, because it probably would have made my journey a lot easier. And I would have, it just would have made it a lot easier. So we're going to start with retaliation. I am on the official United States government webpage, U.S. Department of Labor, which is dol.gov. And I pointed out in the other video, if you start doing EEOCs or if you get hurt at work in dealing with the Department of Labor, you're going to see DOL a lot. That is the acronym for the Department of Labor. What I want to point out on this page about retaliation is what retaliation is to the Department of Labor. Because again, we all have our ideas of what it is. And you know, at the post office, what this website is going to tell you the retaliation is, it's a little different at the post office. They'll retaliate against you for anything. I mean, you can be talking to one of their ex-lovers and they'll retaliate against you, because management sleep with employees out there and management sleep with management. And so it causes a big mess, as well as them having a lot of family members and friends of friends that work there and that they appoint management positions to. All of that causes problems, and it causes unnecessary retaliation that's not necessarily listed. Retaliation occurs when a employer, through a manager, supervisor, administrator, or directly, fires an employee or takes any other type of adverse action against an employee for engaging in protective activity. Now, protected activity is a biggie when you wanting to start filing claims. An adverse action is an action which would dissuade a reasonable employee from raising a concern about a possible violation or encouraging in other related protective activities. Retaliation can have a negative impact on overall employee morals, and that can't be too much more true. I mean, it's so true. Here it tells you you are protected from retaliation for reporting issues relating to, and then it gives you some examples here. And it gives you examples here through these boxes, like examples of each example. And then it tells you what's covered, or basically who's covered. It goes into how to file and the investigation process. I can tell you, the way the investigation process is spelled out by law is not how mine went. At least it's not how I perceived it to go. Okay, so that is just about all I wanted to point out on this page. So then I wanted to come here and I want to point out some key points about workplace retaliation and the protected activities that we just spoke about. Just in case you didn't know, they are actions like filing a formal complaint, reporting misconduct to HR, testifying in an investigation, that's a biggie, or simply raising concerns about illegal practices or considered protective actions. Now, if you work for the post office or have worked for the post office and ever complain about safety issues or things your manager or supervisor might be requiring you to do that's not safe or outside your job limits, that brings on retaliation. If you are someone that speaks up for someone or write a statement for someone, like in an EEO or just simply for the union because you were a witness, that brings on retaliation. And I would also like to add, usually, from my experience, I don't care if they're standing there and they see you get smacked. They are not going to write a statement for you because they don't want the heat. They already know how the post office operate, and it's not a fair game. So if you write a statement for someone and management found out about it, yeah, they do retaliate in the worst way. And again, this is my opinion, my experience. Adverse actions. Retaliation can take many forms, including demotion, pay cuts, hours. I'm not going to go too much into this because we know about all of that, legal implications. I do want to point out examples of boss retaliation. Increased scrutiny. Okay, so that's just, in my opinion, a fancy word for micromanagement because, again, that is so bad in the post office once you get on the bad side of a supervisor. And because it's like a buddy system there, the whole management team is now micromanaging you. And their friends that are employees or their family members that are employees are now micromanaging you. So it's really bad. Shift changes, that really only occurs if you, like, for instance, the example I gave yesterday, a MHA. I started as a MHA and you're not guaranteed your job. You're only really guaranteed 4 hours a day. They can flip-flop you around because that's how they did us. And when they realize you're there because you want the job or you really need the job, they start really screwing you over if they don't like you or getting over on you by switching your hours and making it as difficult as they possibly can, like if you go to school or if you have another job or simply your family. They have no respect. The gossiping and undermining or undermining, y'all. This is really bad in the post office too. Spreading negative rumors about employees and other colleagues after they made a complaint. They don't even have to have made a complaint. They do it just because you're breathing. They'll make up stuff. They'll tell your personal business. And I'm talking about supervisors because, we know coworkers do. But we're mainly talking about management. You go to management, you tell them a personal problem, you need time off. By the time you come back, everybody in the plant know. People are, oh, I'm sorry, this and this and this. And you're thinking, what happened to the confidentiality? Ignoring concerns, that's a biggie. Deliberately not addressing legit issues, especially if it has to do with safety or being mistreated by other employees. Because, like, for me, I had a whole man jump in my face and start yelling at me about something that supposedly a supervisor said, and I had no clue what was going on. And yes, I did report. Nothing happened. Basically, nothing happened. And that was because I was already on management side, in my opinion, and the person was a friend of management. But again, that's just my opinion. Then it tells you what to do if you expect you're being or suspect you're being retaliated against. Seeking legal advice can cost you. You might can get a free consultation, but obtaining a lawyer, because you're going to need a federal lawyer, it does cost a lot, and it is a difference between a regular attorney and a federal attorney. Inform your HR department. Good luck with that. But, some jobs that do help and the buck stops there, you won't have to go nowhere else. You wouldn't have to do the EO thing. But, yeah, the most important thing here, guys, and I might say it 47 times in this video, document everything. The date, the time, what happened, who's there, the people's first and last name. That is very important. First and last names. Make sure you notate if you're working outside your shift, meaning you're on overtime, and this happened after your normal hours. So you want to make sure you document that. You want to document what you're wearing, who all was listening, where you were standing, what you were doing. Document everything and make several copies. Even mention it to someone else, like a coworker, because one of the questions I was asked about just about everything is, did you at least speak to a coworker about it? Yes. Okay, so then we're going to go here. What I want to point out on this page is, first, again, I am on the official website of the United States government. And this is the U.S. Equal Opportunity Commission, the EEOC website. And they have a article on there labeled Retaliation, Making It Personal, right? So I want to first point out that I am kind of disappointed that this chart has not been updated since 2013, but it shows the total amount of complaints filed, the percentage of complaint allegations, and the findings of discrimination based on retaliation. So I felt like this was high numbers as far as what they found based on retaliation, but I'm sure it's a lot more now. And again, we need to make sure that we're doing our part by reporting things, whether we think it's going to go anywhere or not, but reporting it brings attention to it. Okay, so it says, what is retaliation and why managers do it? So I'm not going to get into this because, again, we have our own opinions on why managers do it. But I will point out that to the Department of Labor and the EEOC, it's based on laws like prohibited, based on discrimination is based on race, color, sex, religion, national origin, age, disability, and genetic information. Okay, now look, disability, that can be like a disability you're born with, or possibly you got hurt at work and you're working a limited duty job. That is considered a disability. And I just wanted to point that out. So the next thing I wanted to point out is on this, it was a lot, but then I was like, yeah, I'll just let them read them this. I'll let them read it themselves. Why do managers retaliate? Well, we know why. We know why they retaliate, right? But it is psychological. It's definitely psychological. It says here, the process of retaliation begins with a perceived offense. So they think, but like I've already said, but then it caught me because it said, in this regard, retaliation is a coping mechanism. Coping mechanism? Okay. I didn't think of that as a coping mechanism, but I would say it's definitely a unhealthy one. A way of alleviating the psychological discomfort associated with perceived injustice. How can this person make false allegations? We're not going to read all of that, but what I do want to point out is how it says here, individuals will also retaliate if they perceive the predator as behaving in a way that is intentionally malice. Individuals are also more likely to retaliate if, guys, I'm just going to be honest. The only thing here that makes sense to me, my opinion, at the post office is this first bullet point. Well, maybe the first. The accusation is very serious. That's it. Because they don't care about the impact of their relationships or being judged. They know you're not going to jeopardize their job, nor is it going to cause any harm to their employability. Because, one, the supervisors don't get fired for harassing you or bullying you. It doesn't make no difference how many complaints you file, at least from my experience and from what I've seen. It only makes matters worse when you make these complaints because they retaliate in a worse way. And then all their buddies join in. So they don't care about these last, 4 bullet points. It's only the fact that it might be serious and you might decide to take it to EEO or something like that. But again, I haven't seen a supervisor worry about that, and they'll come tell you and others, oh, they wrote an EEO on me, and yeah, it just makes your life a living hell. But another thing I want to point out is other organizational factors that influence retaliation, and it's only I'm gonna say the first one: a lack of administrative policies discouraging retaliation, because they are not, or it may be the last one, but they are not held accountable for what they do. And it can be, you don't have to be the only one that don't wrote 19 statements. It can be other people out there, like hundreds of people in some cases, that done filed on the same person. I might be exaggerating a little bit, but let's say hundreds of complaints that's done been filed on the same person. They don't care. They don't do nothing. They still walk around the plant and just make your life a living hell. The ability of the accused to isolate the accuser. Oh my God. What they would love to do with me, because they knew I had asthma and how it would be so hot in the plant. So if it's 95 outside, it's 110 in the building. They would like to stick me in the back doing a job that wasn't my job. And I was on a limited duty. The union did say something about it, but it didn't go nowhere. But it would be extremely hot back there because it's no air and no circulation, no sockets in reach for you to even plug up a fan if you had one. And I would be drenched in sweat, could barely breathe, but I could not leave because I needed the money, and they knew that. So, yeah, the ability of the accused to isolate the accuser, that's really bad there too. And then it says what can be done. Now this little part is talking about management. It's saying to prevent retaliation from occurring, managers should take the following actions. I'm only gonna say the first two because they should do all of this stuff, but they don't. But I will point out these first 2 bullet points because it's really bad. Avoid publicly discussing the allegation. Do not share the information about the EEO activity with any other manager or subordinate. I already gave examples earlier about how they do that. And so again, even though all this stuff is written and it's supposed to be rules, regulation, law, they don't follow it. They do what they want to do. And the more you complain, the worse it gets for you. And this is why a lot of employees will not write statements or be whistleblowers. It's just sad but true. So, that's just about all I wanted to cover on this page, which I think that means that I can now start the video on my EEO experience, because I am absolutely dying to share that. Yeah, so hopefully I was able to share some information, help you understand a little more about what retaliation is, what it looks like, some of the rules and regulations, and you definitely need to come here and read it yourself because it is a lot. And again, it's important that you know what it is, what's considered retaliation when you're wanting to come here and file a EEOC. Yeah, so make sure you come back and watch my EEOC video because I want to cover some things on that. Give my journey as much as I possibly can. Please like and subscribe. Until next time, be nice.